What happens when the greatest mind in hip-hop is silenced? We often see the glittering success, the multi-million-dollar deals, and the iconic names that define a generation. But rarely do we see the quiet cost of wearing the crown, especially one made not of gold, but of steel-sharp business sense. For many years, that mind belonged to Chris Lighty. He was the definition of street smarts meeting book smarts, the master negotiator who turned rappers into corporate titans. This was the man behind over 100 million in combined album sales, the one who sealed the legendary Vitaminwater deal for 50 Cent, creating an empire. When 50 Cent lost Chris Lighty, he said he lost the brain of management. Yet, on a quiet summer morning in 2012, this empire builder was found dead in his own backyard from a single gunshot wound. The authorities ruled it a suicide. But to his closest friends, his mother, and his brother, that conclusion has always felt like a betrayal. This was not a training drill. This was real. If he had everything, fame, fortune, and family, why did it end this way? We are going back to the Bronx, to the park jams and the boardroom wars, to understand the rise and the profoundly unsettling fall of Chris Lighty. The story of Chris Lighty began far from the velvet ropes and billion-dollar boardrooms. It started in the crucible of the Bronx, New York, where he was born on May 8, 1968. He was the oldest of 6 children. When his mother and father split up by the time he was 6 years old, Chris became the man of the house, responsible for watching over his younger siblings. His mother, a woman who valued intellect as much as survival, made sure her children had the best start. She enrolled Chris in a private school. But this decision put a unique target on his back. Chris, the only black person in his school, had to fight every day just to protect himself and his dignity. He learned early that success demanded a certain kind of toughness, a willingness to stand alone. Growing up in the Bronx during the 1970s and 80s, he was perfectly positioned to witness the cultural explosion that would define his life. He watched the birth of hip-hop firsthand. He saw how pioneering DJs would run cables, hooking up their equipment to light poles for electricity to play their music, a visceral lesson in resourcefulness. His life took another complicated turn when his mother remarried. The relationship was abusive, and to shield Chris, who was now big and old enough to challenge her new husband, his mother sent him to live with another family member. This era of instability only solidified his internal drive. After graduating high school, Chris chose a pragmatic path, studying electrical engineering. This led him to a good job as an electrician at the electrical company Metro-North. He had the stability many dreamed of, but his true calling, the pulse of the street, was pulling him elsewhere. In his late teens, he and his crew started hitting the legendary New York clubs, where they encountered the esteemed DJ Red Alert. With audacious street confidence, Chris told Red Alert they were sent from Africa Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation, a lie Red Alert knew instantly, but respected the hustle. Chris offered a deal. He and his crew would be Red Alert's muscle and protection in exchange for free entry. Red Alert agreed, recognizing the need for security against rappers who might get bitter if their record wasn't played. Chris and his crew would also carry Red Alert's vinyl records to the clubs. They earned a reputation across New York City for fighting and protecting their own. Chris, being the youngest but notoriously tough, was nicknamed Baby Chris. They were known for being nice with his fighting skills, and for having girls flock to them in the club. DJ Red Alert, impressed by their ferocity and protectiveness, gave them a new, enduring name, the Violators. They would violate you if you started with them. But Red Alert saw beyond the muscle. He saw a maturity, a focus, and a business mind. He felt Chris was the most level-headed and business-minded out of his crew, and had a mission in life. This moment was the true genesis of Chris Lighty's legendary career. Red Alert made Chris the road manager for the trailblazing group, the Jungle Brothers. Suddenly, the street fighter was tasked with logistics, schedules, and money, the perfect blend of street wisdom and professional duty. Soon, he was managing the La Soul, then a tribe called Quest, proving he could manage the most eclectic and brilliant minds in the budding genre. Chris and Shakim soon co-founded Violator Flavor Unit Management around 1988. His name began to circulate widely within the culture. His name was even dropped in a Tribe Called Quest song, What, with Q-Tip rapping, "What's Chris Lighty if he wasn't such a baby?" This buzzing reputation caught the attention of Leo Cohen at Rush Management/Def Jam. Cohen, a huge fan of the native tongues and KRS-One, was impressed by Chris's ability to successfully take these complicated groups on the road and generate revenue. Chris initially hesitated when meeting Russell Simmons, finding the club environment too chaotic with drug use. But Leo Cohen was persistent, and Chris knew he needed to learn the larger business structure to earn the kind of money he wanted. In the late 1980s, Chris Lighty joined Rush Management/Def Jam, signing the deal that would propel him from the street to the global stage, though not without one last violent farewell to his old life. The year 1989 marked a bloody, necessary transition for Chris Lighty. At Queen Latifah's birthday party in Manhattan, he arrived late with Africa Baby Bam of the Jungle Brothers. Trying to skip the line, they were confronted by other patrons. In the resulting chaos, a man pushed Chris and slashed his face with a razor. What followed was a violent exclamation point on his street life. Chris and his friends beat the guys, who then ran inside the club. Chris called his crew, the Violators, who were already inside or quickly showed up. They found the slasher, threw him into a fish tank, and utterly destroyed the club, forcing the shutdown of Queen Latifah's party. The message was clear, but the cost was high. Leo Cohen immediately told Chris he had to make a decision: leave the streets behind or leave Rush Management. Chris chose the business. Focused entirely on his new role, Chris began working with some of hip-hop's most powerful acts at Rush Management, including Eric B. and Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, and Public Enemy. It was here that he demonstrated his unique advantage. He started reading the contracts. He found that Russell Simmons and Leo Cohen often skipped this crucial step, allowing Chris to truly understand the mechanics of the music business. When Rush Management shut down around 1992, Russell and Leo gave Chris a significant gift: the chance to pick any of their artists to manage. This formed the bedrock of the modern Violator empire. Chris took Brand Nubian and transitioned Busta Rhymes into a solo career, rather than managing his group leaders of the new school. He managed LL Cool J, and secured a production deal with Relativity Records, where he signed She Ali, Fat Joe, and the Beatnuts. Chris was building a powerhouse. In 1995, Chris hired Mona Scott to join Violator Management. She was instrumental in getting the track, Hey Lover, with Boys II Men onto LL Cool J's double platinum comeback album, Mr. Smith. Mona Scott, who we now know from the Love and Hip Hop reality series, was one of Chris's major hires, a testament to his ability to spot talent in any facet of the business. He introduced the world to Foxy Brown, featuring her on LL's album, which led to her double platinum debut album, Il Na Na. He also introduced Jay-Z to Leo Cohen, as Jay-Z had ghostwritten Foxy Brown's biggest singles on that album. Chris's success meant inevitable clashes. In 1994, he brought Warren G to Def Jam. This move angered Suge Knight, who felt Warren G was his artist. When Suge Knight and his team approached Leo Cohen in LA, Chris and his friend physically protected Cohen with a gun, getting him back to his hotel safely. When Suge confronted Chris later, asking why he was protecting that white man, Leo Cohen, Chris, the astute businessman, famously replied that he did not see color. He was focused entirely on money and business. He respected Cohen, who was like a father to him, and Suge Knight respected the stance. Chris was not only negotiating music deals but lifestyle ones. In 1997, he brokered a Gap commercial deal for LL Cool J. In the ad, LL wore a FUBU hat, an event that instantly launched Damon John's career and turned FUBU into a billion-dollar clothing company. This was Chris Lighty, building wealth for the entire community. The biggest game changer was his work with 50 Cent. After leaving Def Jam, Chris was hired as executive vice president at Jive Records and signed Mobb Deep. In 2001, he met 50 Cent and signed him to Violator Management. Despite other labels turning 50 Cent down due to his reputation, Chris pushed. After Eminem heard 50 Cent's mixtape, the deal was struck. 50 Cent's debut album, Get Rich or Die Tryin', went on to sell over 13 million copies. Then came the legendary corporate coup. In 2004, Chris negotiated the colossal Vitaminwater endorsement deal for 50 Cent. Glasso, the beverage company, gave 50 Cent a stake in the company and his own grape-flavored drink. When Coca-Cola bought Glasso 3 years later for over $4 billion, 50 Cent's take was estimated up to $100 million. It is said Chris Lighty himself made around $10 million from that single deal. In 2006, Forbes magazine named Chris Lighty one of the industry's most influential talent managers. He wasn't just managing artists, he was transforming the financial landscape of black celebrity, cementing his status as Chris Lighty the businessman. The glittering success of Chris Lighty masked a profound struggle, a quiet decay accelerated by the very forces he had mastered, ambition and high finance. By the late 2000s, the pressures began to crack the foundation of his empire. The first major blow was the colossal financial loss stemming from the infamous Bernie Madoff scheme in 2009. Chris, along with countless other investors, lost millions. While Chris himself stated the loss was not life-threatening, his brother Mike Lighty later revealed that his depleted account with Madoff had at one point been worth a staggering $23 million. This was a massive void in his financial standing. Compounding this was the struggle to keep his company, Brand Asset Group, afloat. Chris had borrowed a substantial loan, estimated to be between $3 million to $6 million, from Warner Music in 2007 to launch the company. The company failed to produce the success he had anticipated, and the loan was due on August 22, 2012. Just 8 days after this deadline, his life would end. The list of financial burdens grew heavy. He was sued by Hollywood agent Michael Ovitz in 2007 and was forced to pay $2 million plus lawyer fees. There were also mounting tax issues, with reports claiming he owed the IRS as much as $5 million, though other sources stated unpaid state and federal taxes were over $300,000. The City National Bank also won a default judgment against him, claiming he had bounced checks and incurred overdraft fees totaling $53,000. The money-making machine was now hemorrhaging cash, turning the successful Chris Lighty into a deeply indebted man. The public conflicts that marked his rise were replaced by painful internal ones. Even the tough facade of Chris Lighty could not withstand the constant stress. His friend, rapper D-Nice, revealed that Chris confided in him, saying he was so stressed that sometimes he felt like just jumping off a building. This wasn't hyperbole. In 2011, the man who managed the world's toughest rappers checked himself into a psychiatric hospital in Connecticut, where he was diagnosed with clinical depression and having suicidal thoughts. His home life was equally turbulent. His marriage to Veronica Lighty was marked by volatility. They had fought frequently, even over accusations of cheating. A police report from August 28, 2005, documented that Chris was arrested and charged with battery after responding to a 911 call where he had split Veronica's lip open with his fist and left numerous bruises, although Veronica declined to pursue the case. Veronica herself filed for divorce in 2011, though she retracted the request 2 days before Father's Day as a gift to Chris. Even as his business evolved, the dangers of his old life never fully left him. In 2003, his Violator office was targeted in a shooting incident. Chris initially blamed Gotti, but a key informant from Jimmy Henchman's circle later claimed in court that he was the one who shot up the office in retaliation for Henchman's beef with 50 Cent and G-Unit. A month later, a further chilling incident occurred when Busta Rhymes' SUV, the same type of car Chris drove, was shot up and riddled with bullets while parked in front of the Violator building. This environment of violence forced Chris, the ultimate hustler, to begin wearing a bulletproof vest. He was surviving the street wars, the boardroom battles, and the psychological weight, but the constant pressure was taking an unbearable toll. The dignity and success of Chris Lighty were slowly being eroded by debt, depression, and danger. The climax of Chris Lighty's life arrived with the brutal efficiency of a final act on August 30, 2012. He had just returned home to his South Riverdale, Bronx apartment after taking his daughter, Tiffany, to the airport. Tiffany had spent the whole summer with her parents, witnessing the constant arguing and fighting, and left that day to escape the turmoil. When Chris arrived home, the conflict he had been trying to flee was waiting. His wife, Veronica Lighty, had a moving truck parked outside and was in the process of moving things out of the house. The arguments about their imminent divorce and the overwhelming financial pressure immediately erupted once more. Shortly after, the legendary manager was found dead in his backyard, lying face up on the patio with a single, self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head, and a 9mm pistol beside his body. The New York Police Department, NYPD, and the medical examiner were quick to conclude suicide, declaring his death a suicide with no foul play after a mere 7 hours of investigation. But the circumstances left an acid taste of suspicion in the mouths of those who knew him best. For the friends and family of Chris Lighty, the official narrative was insufficient and deeply flawed. The investigation failed to address critical details that pointed towards foul play. Missing forensics, a crucial gunpowder residue test on Chris's hands, essential to confirming a self-inflicted wound, was never conducted by the NYPD. Ignored witnesses. There were 2 moving company employees and 2 nannies present at the house that day, yet according to Chris's mother, none were questioned by the police. The ex-husband, Mike Lighty, Chris's brother, stated that he believes Chris was murdered, pointing out the strange fact that Veronica's ex-husband was reportedly the first non-family member to arrive at the scene. Mike's theory suggests Veronica may have thought Chris was going to his office after the argument and the murder occurred when he unexpectedly returned to the house. Wife's behavior. Chris's daughter, Tiffany, reported witnessing Veronica trying to instigate a physical altercation so she could call the police, and even heard her taunt him, "Weren't you suicidal last year? Why don't you go and kill yourself?" His mother also recalled an incident where Veronica broke a champagne bottle over Chris's head. Hip-hop felt the loss immediately. A planned tour deal with 50 Cent, worth $4 million, was scrapped. 50 Cent, who did not believe Chris would take his life over money, hired a private investigator and attorney to launch his own investigation. The attorney claimed the NYPD failed to conduct a thorough investigation and that Veronica had not cooperated. The tragedy of Chris Lighty echoed a similar, unsettling loss in the industry. Shakur Stewart, a powerful black music executive, had also tragically taken his own life in the same manner. It raised a chilling question. Was the emotional toll of carrying the corporate burden for hip-hop's elite simply too much to bear, or were darker forces at play? The death of the man who mastered the art of the deal remains, even today, an open wound and an enduring mystery. The story of Chris Lighty is a tragic American fable, a relentless climb from the literal streets of the Bronx to the highest echelons of corporate power, only to end in silence in his own backyard. His legacy cannot be measured merely by the massive wealth he created for others, nor can his final moments be easily dismissed. He was the unparalleled bridge between the raw energy of the street and the rigid structure of the boardroom. He demonstrated that hip-hop was not just a passing trend but a global economic force. His genius was turning cultural capital into actual capital, sealing landmark deals like the Vitaminwater partnership for 50 Cent. He was the ultimate master of the deal, ensuring his clients, black artists like LL Cool J, Busta Rhymes, and 50 Cent, were not just rich, but multimillionaires. But in the end, the sheer weight of that responsibility, coupled with crushing financial burdens and the ghosts of his past, proved too heavy. The man who had worn a bulletproof vest to protect himself from assassins was ultimately undone by a silent bullet. His death on August 30, 2012, remains shrouded in a profound mystery, fueled by the desperate grief and deep suspicion of his mother, his brother Mike Lighty, and his client, 50 Cent. They, and many in the culture, refused to accept the narrative of suicide, not when crucial evidence was ignored and witnesses left unquestioned. The life of Chris Lighty was a relentless fight. It is the ultimate tragedy that his friends and family still feel compelled to fight for the truth of his death. Chris Lighty was only 44 years old. He left behind a foundation that continues to support the industry he shaped, and a generation of artists who owe him their empires. His struggle reminds us that the brightest lights often mask the deepest shadows. To anyone who has ever stood alone, whether against the street or the suit, we see you. If this story reminds you of the hidden battles behind the scenes of success, please share it below. We read every comment. And if you want to keep exploring the untold stories of the legends who truly changed the game, remember to hit subscribe. May the legacy of Chris Lighty, the ultimate businessman, never be forgotten.